Members, it's already our appointed time, and we have formed a quorum. May I call the meeting to order? First of all, let me wish you good health and every success in the new year. Please invite the administration and also representatives from the two power companies to join us. Because of the seating arrangement of this room, we've arranged for the secretary, undersecretary, and their team to sit on the right-hand side of the room. And CLP, well, actually, the administration will be on your left-hand side, and CLP and Hong Kong E on your right-hand side. Let us welcome the secretary, undersecretary, and his team, as well as representatives from the two power companies for attending the meeting. I also like to remind members at the request of today's meeting is held at the request of members made at the meeting dated the 11th of December last year to discuss with the administration, the two power companies, once again the review of power tariffs and related issues. At the last meeting, members raised a number of issues related to the extent of increase and also other issues. And the two power companies have provided written replies to these questions. On the 7th of January, we sent the relevant paper to members, and it's CB 1378/1213(1). If you haven't got your paper with you, or if need be, you can approach our staff for a copy. And we've also got a electrical brief on the CLP Power Hong Kong Limited, Castle Peak Power Company Limited gas supply infrastructure and gas supply agreement. It was sent to members on the 21st and 27th of December last year. And the paper sets out the fact that the administration approved CLP to invest in the Web 2 for transmission of gas to Hong Kong for power generation. If members have no objection, we are going to discuss that paper together with other papers, okay? Secretary, can I give the floor to you to give us an introduction, please? Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman. The only source of natural gas of CLP is mainly from Hainan, because the gas field will be depleted quite soon, and so CLP is going to transmit gas into Hong Kong through Web 2, and as a result, a few projects have to be carried out. First, a new gas receiving station will have to be constructed at Black Point Power Station, and second, modification project at BPPS, and also to build the Hong Kong branch line or HKBL connecting Da Chan Island in the western part of Shenzhen to BPPS, and also CAPCO and PCI will have to sign the gas supply agreement for the procurement of gas sourced from Web 2. And in order to tie in with the maintenance program of BPPS and also the commissioning date of Web 2, the procurement arrangements to be made earlier. And in 2011 June, the first and second items were approved by EXCO, and that is a new GRS and BPPS, and also the BPPS modification project, in order to meet the target WEP 2 gas commissioning date. The two projects will involve additional capital expenditure of $1,682 million, so that the total capital projects expenditure over the 2008 development plan period will be increased from $39.9 billion by about $1.7 billion to $41.6 billion. And as for Hong Kong BL, although CLP has invested into it, it will not be counted as fixed asset under the SCA, and therefore will not earn any permitted return. And there is also no need to seek the SAR government's approval. Hong Kong BL will be built by a Sino-Foreign Equity Joint Venture or JV company formed between Petro China and also a wholly subsidiary of CLP Power, holding 60% and holding 40% and 60% of the interest respectively. We will have to pay the transmission tariff, HKBL tariff, as a component of the WEP 2 gas price. The GSA will last for 20 years. Under the agreement, KEPCO will have a very transparent and certain formula for working out the gas price, and that the formula reflects the commodity element, the transportation element, and also applicable taxes and duties and other administrative costs. According to our independent energy consultant, the price formula is in line with the mainland's gas price regimes, and the cost elements are reasonable. The SAR government has the discretion not to extend the franchise beyond 2018 and to change our energy structure come the 1st of October 2018. And so the GAS may give rise to stranded cost concerns. So the approval of EXCO therefore must be granted, and actually approval was granted last year. Certain conditions have to be introduced. First, there must be greater certainty in prices and to ensure the interest of local consumers. KEPCO or Petrochem can adjust the prices. However, if prices are to be adjusted upwards, prior approval of the Hong Kong government is needed. KEPCO or CLP will brief members on the details of WEP 2. Thank you. May I give the floor to CLP to brief us on WEP 2? Which one from the Richard? Speakers of Mr. Chiu is going to brief us on that project. Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon. We've always wanted to generate power in a reliable, affordable, and environmental friendly and safe manner. Back 20 years ago, we also envisaged the need to use natural gas for power generation. So in 1996, when the price was less than 20 per barrel, we assigned a 20-year agreement with our supplier so that we can have power to meet development in society, and we've also been able to maintain the gas price at a rather stable value. However, the gas field there will be depleted quite soon, and therefore we have to source another supplier to ensure a steady supply of gas. In 2008, the National Energy Administration signed the Memorandum of Understanding on Energy Supply with the Hong Kong government. There are 3 sources of new natural gas supply identified. The first is second West Seas natural gas pipeline, or WEP2, and also a new liquefied natural gas terminal in Shamjai, and the last source is a new gas supply from South China Sea. WEP2 is the earliest feasible option to provide a long-term and reliable supply of gas to Hong Kong for our power generation. So with the cooperation of the 2 governments and our suppliers and partners, gas will be available through WEP2, and it will be a clean source of fuel for Hong Kong. Let me briefly tell you about WEP2. The purpose of building the pipeline is to transmit gas from central China to Hong Kong. It has got a main trunk line plus 8 branches starting from Xinjiang. It has over 9,000 kilometers in length. It will reach Guangzhou, and there will to cover 15 provinces and regions, including Hong Kong. And the investment is $140 billion. It will be commissioned it was commissioned in December 12, and is already commissioned in Guangdong. There will be a new gas reception center and BBPS, and also some infrastructure in Dachan, and then there will also be a Hong Kong branch line, which is 20 kilometers long. To receive the new gas, there are 2 projects to be carried out. First is a new gas receiving station to ensure that the pressure, the temperature up to the requirements of BPPS. And the second project is to modify the plants at BPPS so as to make it suitable for the new gas. So last month, EXCO approved the GSA. Details include the supply amount and also various pricing mechanism. The price will be determined by a very transparent mechanism and will comply with the monitoring guidelines of the central government. The price will compose of 3 components. First, a commodity element reflecting cost of gas imported from Central Asia to China, and will move in line with prices of oil. And the second is a transportation element, reflecting the cost of pipeline transportation charge for taking gas from the border in Xinjiang to Hong Kong. And lastly, applicable taxes and duties and administrative costs. The commodity element will account for about half of the price. Regarding the gas price trend, usually this is an important indicator in the energy market. Starting from the 1990s, the price has increased from $20 per barrel to about 100. So our first agreement was signed 20 years ago. Back then, the price was much lower than the current price, because Asia is a major importing country, a major importing place. So the importing price of Japan is a good indicator. Recently, it is about 80 to $20 per barrel.
Given the current market arrangements, the supply gas price is competitive. We believe that this price, the 2013 WEP2 gas price, is expected to be around 18 to 20 US dollars. It's probably the same, is in line with the LNG import prices. Adding infrastructure cost to the end users, WEP2 gas supply priced Hong Kong is competitive compared with gas supply to South China region based on LNG imports. when the tariff are being determined every year, the tariff will be subject to various factors, including the cost of fuel, the amount of supply, and so on. So the impact, there will be different impact in terms of Web 2. The additional investment in the new gas receiving stations at Black Point and the modification projects would result in the increase of basic tariff by about 0.9 cents per kilowatt hour in 2013. However, with higher than expected local electricity sales in 2012 and cost management, we were able to maintain the basic tariff unchanged in 2013. In order to contain the cost, we have adopted different measures, including taking various mitigating measures to minimize tariff impact due to rising cost of supply. And we also try to do all these efforts and also by allowing the due to the current price differential between Web 2 and the Yaqing gas, the fuel cost charge in 2013 requires an increase of only about 7 cents as a result of a higher priced Web 2 gas. I think our tariff is very competitive when compared with Singapore, London, New York, and Sydney. It's about 80% to 100% cheaper. So, and the fuel cost is able to sustain our economy and the needs of our community. We'll continue to maintain our tariff at a reasonable level and ensure that it is competitive, and to guarantee that the 2.4 million customers will continue to enjoy the reliable and safe supply of electricity. Overall speaking, we believe that with the Web 2 gas supply and the infrastructures in place, Hong Kong will continue to benefit from, first of all, a reliable pipeline gas supply to replace the depleting Yaqing gas, and secondly, the gas supply priced under a clear and transparent mechanism. And also, it is competitive in the South China region. Thirdly, the supply source available to support increasing gas needed to meet the future emissions from Central Asia in order to satisfy our future demand for natural gas. Thank you. Today, we are going to focus our discussion on the review of the tariff for 2013 and also Web 2. Our discussion will go on until 6:25, and we have Mr. Bill, Militia Yang, Fernando Zhang, Mr. Sin Chung Kai, Kwok Pui Fan. So I will allow 5 minutes for each member. Mr. Kwok Ka Pio. Thank you. The CLP has increased the tariff by 5.9%. I think that's not. I think we are forced to accept that. But I think the supplementary paper, the chairman suggests that we can discuss this paper. On page 6, paragraph 17, we are really shocked to learn that if we're going to use Web 2 natural gas, the tariff will go up by 20 cents or 20%. In 2013, after they have depleted the rebates for rates, and if we don't have a sufficient stable tariff clause, so can the Secretary tell us how much can we expect the tariff to go up in 2013? Secretary. Thank you for the question. Regarding the use of different fuels and how it will impact on the tariff, I believe that many factors which will affect the outcome, and our Undersecretary will elaborate further on this. I believe in this regard, you must understand that we need a reliable and safe as well as environmentally friendly supply of electricity. Perhaps, well, members are concerned about the tariff adjustment. Will the increase be rather substantial? Because in the paper it said 20 cents. When the CLP has signed the agreement with the other party, will it remain the same for 20 years, or will there be adjustments according to the international market trend and adjusted accordingly? Ms. Poon, regarding the new contract and the price of gas, I'll invite CLP to elaborate on this. But regarding the impact on tariff, Mr. Tang was correct in saying that in this contract, if we are going to use up all the total amount of supply as stipulated in the contract, and based on the 2012 tariff, then just the fuel cost alone, just the price of natural gas, would result in the tariff being increased by 20 cents. But in which particular year will we exhaust the total supply of gas? We do not have any conclusion yet. According to my understanding, let's say in the contract we stipulate that how much will be the amount, and then in 2013, in the first year of the contract, CLP will not take full delivery of the total full amount. In 2014, according to the plan, they will not, take up the total amount. So the natural gas will take up 50% of the fuel mix soon. And if that should happen, would it mean that the tariff will only go up by 20 cents maximum, or would it increase continuously? By 2015, because of the air-controlled regulations, there is a technical memorandum requiring both power companies to reach a certain emission standard. In 2010, when we discussed the 2015 emission standards or the emission caps, it is true that we made certain assumptions at the time. We assumed that the lower fuel mix would be such that half would be natural gas, and if that were the case, we would be able to reach the emission standard. But the estimate at the time and the emission standard laid down at the time, given that both power companies have installed desulfurization devices, and that would involve a substantial capital investment. The benefit is that with these infrastructures in place, the coal-fired power plants emission performance has actually improved compared with our original estimate in 2010. So by 2015, do we need to follow the 2010 estimate and require natural gas to make up 50% of the fuel mix? I believe that both power companies will need to go back and do the sums again. According to the present situation, thank you. You say that 50% may go down. Of course, they're the investor. We don't want them to make investments all the time, because just investing on the desulfurization device alone, they've already invested more than $100 million. So whether they're going to use more natural gas or install new infrastructures, it will mean higher tariff for us. Chairman, in 2010, when we work out the emission cap for 2015, we did not require both power companies to install new generators. It was based on the existing generation facilities, be they coal-fired or gas-fired, and on that basis we work out the cap. By 2015, in other words, the two power companies will not need to add any new installations. Well, according to the report, the academics said that you've already invested $10 billion on the desulfurization, devices. Is that true?
$10 billion has been invested into the new machines.
Chairman, we invested in emissions control equipment progressively from 2009 through to 2000 and early part of 2012. The total cost of that was under 9 billion Hong Kong dollars. So that investment has already been completed. That was needed in order to meet emissions caps for the year 2010 through to 2014. In 2015, we will need to meet tighter emissions caps, which will see a lowering of our emissions down substantially by more than 60%. So in order to meet the 2015 emissions caps, we will need to use more natural gas.
一個即係你呢啲全部都係錢嚟㗎。
All this would involve, investment, right, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen? Thank you. So, in other words, does it mean that we're being warned that the tariff adjustment is going to be even more shocking going forward? 5.9% is not that much. You said that you were going to increase the tariff by 20 cents. You haven't used up all the full amount in 2013 and 2014. Do you have any information to tell us in 2013, 2014, 2015, will you be using more and more of the natural gas? And if that's the case, how would that impact on the tariff? Do you have a table to tell us, give us the percentages, and at which time will you, reach 100%? If you don't have that timetable yet, does CLP has such information? When will you be able to, take delivery of the full, the total supply? If it's even if it's not up to 20 cents, as you steadily increase the tariff, it's 5.9%. It could be the lowest adjustment yet. So of course we need to protect the environment. We need a stable tariff. But have you ever considered how much have you considered the issue of affordability? Perhaps it's long you haven't considered that. So long as the power companies increase tariff according to that formula, there's nothing you can do. Why didn't you simply tell us that? So long as they increase tariff according to that formula. Another information I'd like to seek is that we do not have any tariff adjustment an account for that. The negative reserve is 1 billion. Do we have to pay that back? If we don't have to pay back that negative balance is fine. But if we have to pay back the 1 billion and then the new tariff we have to also pay, then we are being squeezed on both sides and it's going to be disaster going forward. Is that the case? And secondly, the laying of the pipelines for natural gas would cover pipelines, going through many different cities in China. How are you going to split the cost? You've made the investment. Do you only consider count the cost for the Hong Kong section, or will you consider the cost from Shenzhen all the way to Hong Kong? Or how are the different cities contributing a fair share of the cost, or is it that that we have a single pipe and it serves many cities and you rip off all these cities along the way? Then would that be fair? 2 questions. Secretary, I suggest the power company will answer some of the questions first. Of course, we are concerned about we understand the concerns of the community. So, CLP, could you tell us about how the 20% is arrived at, and also the fuel clause charge and the cost for the transmission cost and so on? How is that worked out?
Chairman, I understand there were 3 questions. But firstly, the fuel clause account deficit of around $1 billion is our projection for the deficit for next year. That deficit will reflect the actual cost of fuel in 2013. It's a combination of the price of coal and the price of natural gas and any oil that we need to purchase. So the actual cost will be reflected in an account balance at the end of next year, and that will be taken into account when we look at any tariff adjustments that will be needed for the following year. In terms of the cost of the transportation of natural gas, the West to East pipeline is the world's longest gas pipeline, but it is also supplying gas to many people throughout cities in the mainland. The cost of the pipeline is shared fairly across all users of gas. For Hong Kong, we have a small length of pipeline, around 20 kilometres, that connects us to the main gas system in China. So the cost of that 20 kilometres has had to be paid for by Hong Kong customers, but the rest of the pipeline is fairly and equally paid for by all users of gas on the mainland, and that has been regulated by the mainland authorities. I think the last question was around impact of gas. It's very difficult to predict how much of the West to East pipeline gas we will be needing, because it will be progressively replacing Yacheng gas over the next few years. Our Yacheng gas field is almost exhausted. It was a very large gas field by China's standards, but we have now used up most of that gas, and the performance of that gas field is very difficult to predict over the next few years. We will be still using Yacheng gas in 2013 for around 1/3 of our gas supply, and progressively over the next few years we would see that further depleting and being gradually replaced by West to East pipeline gas. So the calculation in the government's paper has been on the assumption that once all the Yacheng gas has been exhausted, which may still be some years away, once all of that is exhausted and replaced with West to East pipeline gas at today's prices, then that would have an impact of around 20 cents. But the price of gas will vary, and it will vary depending on the price of oil.
But
the administration has to tell us why it cannot be the gatekeeper. We know that in 2013 there will be a deficit of $1 billion, so it has to be paid back in 2014. And there will be less gas from Yacheng and more from Web 2, although we don't know to what extent. There is no way the government can gatekeep. How can you share our concern? You might as well admit that you cannot really do anything about it. All right, Secretary, how do you play the role of a gatekeeper? I think we have to understand that the Yacheng field, that agreement was made long ago, and the price was fixed long ago, and of course the gas would be depleted sooner or later. Even without Web 2, we have to identify a new source of gas for power generation in Hong Kong. So at different stages we have to look at different sources of gas and also the fuel mix so that we can have power at a reasonable level. The increase will just track the global trend. I understand that the agreement gives us a framework for long-term consideration, as well as the negative account is also a mechanism for us to make adjustment year on year. And at different times we can make use of that. We understand that the agreement has its constraints. We're going to carry out a review of the SCA this year, and perhaps there can be issues for discussion in the community that will be more positive. Dr. Fernando Zhang, for the recent tariff increases by the two power companies has shown us very clearly that the two power companies like to squeeze every cent out of its consumers. Under the SCA, they would like to maximize their permitted return. They are listed companies, they are business entities. They have to do justice to themselves and their shareholders. Of course, they have to make every penny they can. On the other hand, the government is helpless. The power companies can increase tariff as they like, so long as they can work out the sums and that the figures don't look too ugly politically, and they might play a few gimmicks and give a waiver or discount for low-income users. So there's a struggle with the formula. It's just an accounting game. And then this so-called negative deficit, we have to repay the power companies sooner or later. So we're very worried about the future tariff hikes. They can be really staggering. And Yet the government's hands are tied because of a wrong decision by the government. The previous term of government allowed the two power companies to invest almost $40 billion, and they can be reflected in their permitted return, although the rate of return has been reduced to 9.9% because of the additional investment. We are back to square one. So if this is to go on, I don't know what the government intends to do. Does it have the will to administer Hong Kong? Does it want to control electricity tariff to ensure that household consumers and our businesses will not suffer because of electricity tariff that has gone out of control? We must urge the two power companies to give us relatively more certain projections of tariff increases in the coming 5 years, so that we have an idea of the picture. We have a better idea of what is going to happen in the coming 5 years. I believe they do have these projections. It's just that they don't want to show us. I don't know whether it was 2 years ago the EXCO signed the Memorandum of Understanding for supply of gas through Web 2. I hope the administration can release the agreed supply amount and also the formula for setting the prices to let the public know clearly, because things are very intransparent and we don't know what will be the impact of the details on future tariff hikes. I hope the administration will not just give up and surrender, because in 2013 there will be a midterm review, and come 2018 the whole agreement will be renewed. So does the administration have the willpower to control electricity tariff? Because the administration is totally helpless now. Well, what plans, what tricks does it have to control electricity tariff? Secretary, no, it's not true to say that the tariff increases have been totally out of control. I have to set the record straight. And we have the SCA, and Dr. Zhang has asked us to have a better grasp of future level of tariffs. Now, we are going to conduct a midterm review, and then we can try to enhance our current arrangement. Dr. Zhang has asked two specific questions. I hope that the two power companies can reply. First, Dr. Zhang asked whether we can for sure predict the tariff increases in the coming few years. Second, the gas, the supply amount, and also prices under the MOU for Web 2. All right, the supply, the amount of gas supply. Anyone from CLP? Richard?
Chairman, thank you for the question. In terms of predicting future tariff increases, the electricity tariffs are a factor of many varying factors: electricity sales, the level of investment, operating costs, and quite importantly, fuel costs as well. It's very difficult to predict in years ahead what the impact of tariff will be in any particular year. We do work very hard to keep our operating costs and our level of investment as low as possible, and our basic tariff in 2013 is actually lower than it was as far back as 1997. The main reason for the tariff increase in 2013 has been the rising cost of fuel, and in particular the need to replace our existing very cheap supply of gas from Yacheng with the west to east pipeline gas, and that will be the major factor that will be affecting CLP's electricity tariffs over the next few years as we progressively replace our Yacheng gas supply with the West to East pipeline gas supply. Once again, with the uncertainty around the amount of gas that we can extract from the Yacheng gas field in the next few years, it is still very difficult to predict what the tariff would be in any particular year. But clearly the price level of today's market price is much higher than it was for our Yacheng gas supply, which was a very old contract negotiated back in the early 1990s.
單仲偕議員。
Mr. Sin Chongkai. I'd like to refer to the electrical brief on the GSA. Caroline says that Petro Hong Kong and CLP have agreed to form a joint venture company. PetroChina and a wholly owned subsidiary of CLP Power holding 60% and 40% equity interest respectively. And this investment is not counted as fixed assets, and therefore it doesn't need any approval from the government. I'd like to know the total investment in building Hong Kong BL, which has a length of 20 kilometers. Since the JV company is not within the control of the government, how can you know the investment? Perhaps the subsidiary of CLP might be profit-making, and yet since it's not within the SA, how can you monitor to ensure that this subsidiary of CLP will not profiteer? And according to your PowerPoint, I think you are implying that it's about $6 from Yacheng. And then natural gas from South China Sea about $14, and then $18 to $20 for the rest in the market. And then you say that it's expected that gas from Web 2 will be $18 to $20. You talk about the price at Shenzhen. By the time it arrives Hong Kong, what will be the price, assuming that there is no top-up, is already 3 times that of Yacheng? That means the impact on cost, because fuel and also the network operation are the 2 factors. So the increase can be quite substantial. That is the contribution from fuel. Although the representatives from CLP refuse to predict the cost of fuel, but I think the rise is going to be quite substantial. So now, while the CLP has refused to tell us, I'd like to ask the administration, what is its prediction? What will be the cost if you take into account the fuel and also the network? I ask the power company to reply first before we supplement? Mr. Lancaster?
Chairman, thank you for the question. There was one question relating to the Hong Kong branch line in investment. The West to East pipeline is a national project on the mainland, and that has been, the total cost of that pipeline is 142 billion renminbi. There is a small section that has needed to be connecting Hong Kong to the pipeline network. The cost of that, even though the project is not completed yet, it would be within the range of 4 to 4.5 billion renminbi. And that is regulated by the mainland energy authorities rather than the Hong Kong government. The price level for our imports of gas, we purchase our gas under a different pricing mechanism to imports of liquefied natural gas, but that represents a good representative of our alternative. Liquefied natural gas is of the range of $18 to $20 per unit, and on top of that would need to be additional infrastructure to receive the liquefied natural gas, convert it back to natural gas, and then pipe it to our power station. From our analysis, the imports of west to east pipeline gas are lower than the alternative of importing liquefied natural gas, even taking into consideration all the necessary infrastructure investments. So we believe that the west to east pipeline gas is the most competitively priced gas source that we can access.
我希望我冇理解錯誤，即係香港支線嗰度大概40-50億嘅人民幣。
Understand that the Hong Kong section of the network will cost 44.5 billion renminbi, and the gas from Web 2. I think you wrote this PowerPoint. You say that the price will be $18 to $20 per unit, but you said that it might be lower than this. Do I have a different? Is my understanding correct? I mean, according to PowerPoint number 8. You say that your price is very competitive, but then you say it's $18 to $20. $18 to $20 is the price when we consider that the gas has already arrived in Hong Kong, and not the price as at Shenzhen. So the $18 per unit is the price after the gas has already arrived in Hong Kong. There will be no extra cost for the transmission of the gas from Shenzhen to Hong Kong. The 4 to 5 billion renminbi. How are you going to pay for that? The payback portion, that is. Does it come out from the 1.8 or 2 billion US dollars? Well, the $18 to $20, there are three components, half of which will be the commodity price. The other half includes the transportation cost, the Hong Kong section of the pipeline, and also from Shenzhen coming down to Shenzhen. It's reflected in the other half of the price. So, $18 to $20 already includes the transportation cost. Ms. QUAT, Chairman. According to the government's paper, in page 1 of Annex B, there is a table, and spelling out the impact on households. So for those for each unit over 200 units and 300 units, it's 3.5% or so on. So I think it's a bit misleading here. I'd like the CLP explain why for each unit Hong Kong Electric can increase the tariff by 3%, but CLP's increase is more drastic, especially for households using large number of units. The increase is up to 26%. CLP? Well, CLP and Hong Kong Electric. Would you like them to answer the question relating to the tariffs? CLP?
We can provide perhaps an explanation around our tariff table. The tariff increase for CLP was solely due to an adjustment to our fuel clause charge of 4.6 cents per unit. And the way that we implemented the increase was to provide incentives for our customers to better manage and use less energy and to conserve energy. So we offered an energy saving rebate for customers who consumed less than 200 units or 300 units or 400 units. And for the small number of our customers who use several times the average, we have progressively higher increases.
Do you want to comment, or do you know why your increase is higher than Hong Kong Electric?
Overall, our fuel clause charge was increased by 4.6 cents per unit, and the reason for that was to pay for the higher priced gas that we're importing. I think if you compare the two tariff tables of CLP and HEC, you'll see that the net unit rate is actually lower for CLP customers than for HEC customers. And if you look at the average total tariff for the two companies, CLP's tariff overall is 29% lower than HEC's tariff.
主席，我覺得咧，其實咧。
I think the government has the duty to explain more clearly to the people as to why tariffs are increased so drastically and how, in percentage terms, how much is the increase. CLP explained the arrangements of the tariff adjustments, and we understand there were some rebates in terms of the land rent and the rates. You're using natural gas, and this is how the tariff will be adjusted. Maximum is 26%. If the fuel mix, if natural gas make up 40% of the fuel mix, will there be any more arrangements regarding the rebates? And if not, then there will be under a lot of pressure to see a more drastic increase in tariff. CLP and Hong Kong Yield will drastically adjust the fuel cost clause, and then the cost can be put on the burden of consumers. So we're going to have such drastic adjustment this year already. Are we going to see 50% adjustment every year going forward? CLP said that all along they've been encouraging us to conserve energy, but I don't think they've actually actively, taking measures to encourage people to conserve energy. Secretary, I think you're true in saying that. We all know that fuel costs, fuel price is under pressure to keep on increasing. So how can we strike a good balance as far as Hong Kong is concerned? In Hong Kong, for each unit of electricity, like if we compare ourselves like Singapore, I think our tariff is relatively lower. Given the present state of people's livelihood, how can we come up with a better direction? So CLP can do some things, including encouraging people to conserve energy. Are there other specific measures which CLP could do? We will try our best to do that, but you must understand that we are subject to the constraint of a major framework. But anyway, we will try our best to strike the right balance. Chairman, so that means that the government is saying that there's nothing much it can do, except that we can only lower the tariff if we conserve energy, and that the tariff adjustment going forward will be even higher. You're saying that it's subject to the international fuel prices. Well, of course, many countries. If you go to London and New York, energy conservation is the major initiative, and in the interim review, there is some room for us to reflect on that. Mr. Chung Kok Pan. According to the new supply agreement, every year, does CLP have a commitment as to how much natural gas it will use, or take up? I understand that the Environmental Bureau has sent a letter to this council saying that nuclear energy, they can't predict how much nuclear energy will make up our fuel mix. What is the percentage, that is. But in the past, when we talk about a fuel mix, 40% should be nuclear. But we all know that nuclear energy is a lot cheaper. I understand that in Guangdong, they are building several new nuclear power plants. So after you've signed the supply agreement for natural gas, without making a commitment as to how much natural gas you will use every year, now if at the appropriate time we're able to use more nuclear energy, can that actually be a substitute for natural gas? So, and the 20-year agreement that you've signed. Thank you, Mr. Chung, for your question. I think we all want some flexibility here. That is, for the natural gas to be imported in Hong Kong, we want some flexibility. That is, we can adjust the volume according to our need. So perhaps the power company can explain the details as to how such adjustments could be made.
Thank you, Chairman. CLP has an obligation to meet caps on our total emissions. So we have to use sufficient gas or nuclear power to make sure that we comply with emissions caps. Those caps will be tightened in 2015, and we will need to comply with lower emissions caps in 2015. And the emissions caps are under consideration for 2017 at the moment. We do need some flexibility because our existing supply of Yacheng gas is depleting and will be phased out over the next few years, and we need to make sure that we have adequate gas available to meet tighter emissions caps in 2015. So we have taken all of that into consideration in our gas sales agreement, and we have some degree of flexibility in order to make sure that we have an adequate supply of gas, but we can still keep our costs as low as possible and use the best performing coal-fired units as well as nuclear power in order to meet our emissions caps and maintain our supply of electricity.
跟住係田北辰議員。
Mr. Tin, Michael Tin. So I was wondering what I should say. I have done a lot of research, and I've also asked many questions of our friends from CLP. I think that we're only seeing the tip of an iceberg here. The real problem is coming. In the age of CYLM, we really need to do something. I think you have to tell the people of Hong Kong honestly what is the price we need to pay for clean air and the emission standards in future. I mean, how are we going to pay for what we need to do in order to meet those standards? In 2012, 85 cents is the basic tariff. That has not changed even until 2013. 17 cents is linked to fuel costs. It's 17 cents for fuel. How can that result in the overall tariff going up from $1 and you increase it by £1.05 because fuel cost has gone up by 25%. I find it very odd that fuel cost has gone up by 20%. The mix is 30% nuclear, 20% gas, 50% coal. Coal price has not really gone up, and 20% of your fuel mix would result in the overall fuel cost going up by 25%. What does that mean? And then I look further. In 2012, they use mainly gas from Yacheng. In 2013, gas from Yacheng will come down to 40%. 20% will come from South China. That's double in price. And then the remaining 30% will be Web 2. That's 3 times more expensive. You do the sums, and you will find that this is indeed true. They do need to increase the tariff by 25% or more than 4 cents per unit. Well, apparently this sounds very reasonable, but in reality, the problem is that in 2011 and 2013, the percentage has not changed. Natural gas is still 20%, coal is still 50%, coal is still 50%. That already resulted in tariff going up by 6%. So I'd like to say this to all the people of Hong Kong. By 2015, if they need to meet the emission cap, they would have to increase natural gas to up to 45% of the fuel mix. Coal will be down to 25%. By doing so, there's no more natural gas coming from Yacheng. So we're subject to a double penalty here. By 2015, natural gas 25 to 45%. Yacheng will no longer have any gas. Most of the gas will come from Web 2, 3 times more expensive. So if we are paying $1.60 and 6 cents for each unit. By 2015, 6 cents, so 106 cents. By 2015, we would need to pay 140 cents. We're talking about a 40% increase in tariff. And I think it will really cause a lot of concern. I'm worried that 2 years from now you need to meet the emission cap. You're not told the people who's going to pay for that. So I want you to give us clear figures, and they have to. You need to give a full account to the people of Hong Kong. There are only 3 options here. Well, we'll continue 30% nuclear, 50% natural gas. Either we have resort to government subsidy, or we go for the user pay principle, or we have to nuclear would go up to 50, 60, 7%, and keep natural gas at 20, 30%. Otherwise, the increase in tariff is going to be exorbitant. I think the government will need to be honest with the people. I understand that many people are worried about nuclear energy. I understand that nuclear energy, I think anything 30 kilometers away, it will not affect us. They now have powers to build, they have plans to build nuclear plants more than 100 kilometers away. It wouldn't really affect us that much. If you want them to respond, Mr. Tin, you better pause now. I don't want them to respond. I'm just making a point here. I want them to, I want, a discussion involving the whole community.
Will we accept a high level of power mix from nuclear energy, or are we willing to pay high electricity tariff 2 years down the road? Who is going to bear the cost? Users or the government? I think there should be public consultation as soon as possible. The sooner the better. If the Secretary would like to respond, feel free to do so. Dr. Priscilla Leung, well, you said you didn't need a reply. Well, I said if the Secretary wishes to reply, I give him a chance. Do you wish to do so, Secretary? Chairman, I thank Mr. Tian for his question. Mr. Tian's calculations are very accurate and precise. We have no intention not to let the public know the cost. Well, in 2009, when we reviewed the air quality indicators or objectives, we already told the public that the possible rise in tariff might be up to 20 to 30%. Well, in 2009, 2010, we made this clear to the public at different times, clearly. I think Mr. Tian is giving us 3 options for consideration. Well, in the middle of this year and until the end of this year, we will discuss with the public what should be our energy mix. So we are concerned about the environment, but of course we have to discuss the cost, and then we'll give everything to the public to discuss. May I remind members that each member has 5 minutes to ask questions and allow the administration to reply. We cannot spend 5 minutes on our own questions and then ask the administration to reply. We have to be fair to everyone. Dr. Priscilla Leung. Yeah, when we are asked to pay, we have to do so without any grudge. I hope CLP will not try to squeeze every single penny out of to make every single penny. Otherwise, it will backfire. Last year, there was a heated debate here demanding CLP to give us their data. I put this to CLP last year, and I'm going to give it another chance. According to CLP, to meet the emission caps and to protect the environment, of course, we welcome this. CLP said that it would cause financial hardship on the company, but it was exposed that remuneration for directors increased by 50%. This is very baffling. I hope that CLP can reply once again to these questions. Why is it that you have fattened your senior management? Because we have got calls from your employees saying that they were operating very. We've got calls from the executive saying that your operation is very difficult. So I think the SCA is an unfair treatment. So what is what supervision, what regulation can we have? Last year we once discussed whether we should invoke our powers and privileges to demand CLP to give us all the relevant data. Some members understood that it might involve sensitive commercial information and the company should not be forced to disclose such information. However, you have to be accountable to the public. Otherwise, we want the energy or the electricity market to be liberalized in 2018, to be opened up. Now, if you want to make profits, you must have social responsibility. You must have corporate responsibility, and you have to be accountable to the public. I will give time for CLP to respond to these issues.
Thank you for the question, Dr. Leung. We, as a electricity provider to 2.4 million customers in Hong Kong, we are very much aware of the impact of electricity tariffs on our customers, and we do work extremely hard to keep all of our costs as low as possible. If I refer back to the documents that we submitted in the earlier meeting in December, in Annex B, our operating costs are provided in detail, and our total operating expenses forecast for 2013 are a 2% increase on 2012. So we have worked very hard to keep a cost increase to a level that is below the inflation rate, despite the fact that materials and salaries have increased generally at generally around the inflation rate over that time.
主席，佢冇回應到咧，即係點解？
But CLP has not responded to these reports. That is, they have fattened their senior management or directors. So we would like to know what is the internal checks and balances. Can you please respond to these rumors that individual directors have substantially increased their remuneration by 225%? So how can you expect the public to accept? We're not asking you to cut the salaries of your staffs, but how come directors are getting so much?
We remunerate all of our staff based on a consideration of performance and also market benchmarks. We need to pay at a competitive level compared to other similar companies in Hong Kong. We do an annual review and we do adjust our salaries based on those principles. There's also a very important principle that we follow, that nobody sets their own pay. It is determined independently. We do reviews by independent consultants, and our annual salaries are adjusted based on those principles.
主席，佢係仍然冇答到我嘅。
But he still hasn't answered my question. Will you prevent such individual or isolated cases from happening again? Your consultants or advisors might have been derelict of their duty. They've not explained why some directors are getting so much. When you want to raise tariffs, we won't believe that you are operating difficultly. Why is it some are getting so much and some do not enjoy any pay rise? Mr. Lancaster, can you reply to this question? This increase in remuneration for directors.
I don't know any specific details that Dr. Leung is referring to, but all of our remuneration policies are published in our annual report. As a publicly listed company, we have a high level of disclosure. Any reasons for any specific circumstances are explained in our annual report.
或者梁議員你可以事後。
Perhaps, Dr. Leung, you can provide the information referring to Mr. Lancaster. I did. I gave them such information beforehand to give them an opportunity to reply, but I think the answer is far from satisfactory. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. We understand that the import prices of oil or fuel will continue to rise, and we can expect further increases in tariff. But CLP keeps saying that it's a lot of store by energy saving. I think this is also the government's target. By saving energy, we can also improve air quality. But at the last discussion, and even look at the paper before us, we see some discounts for low volume users. I'd like to ask whether the two power companies would change its tariff structure and turn energy saving into discounts to encourage users to consume energy. To save energy. Will you do that? And according to the administration, if SLP can have installation in producing renewable energy, it will be counted into its permitted return of 11%. But what about other large residential developments? If they are willing to install such facilities, why can't some incentives, financial incentives or rebates or support be given to these residential developments so that these developments can consider installing or designing for facilities to produce renewable energy? I know the administration will allow a surplus renewable energy to be used in its regular supply, but I know the requirement of the grid or link up with the grid is very stringent. Is it because CLP doesn't want to? Well, renewable energy might only be a very small amount. I'd like to know whether it is because of lack of encouragement from the government. So will the administration provide more incentives for development of renewable energy and encourage users to save energy? And if they're willing to install facilities to produce renewable energy, can you provide some fiscal incentives? Secretary, I'll say a few words and then I can invite the other parties to supplement, and even Hong Kong E. I think we'll agree that by saving energy or electricity, we can save money in terms of tariff and to benefit our environment. That can be done by user management and by use of renewable energy. We do have the mechanism to encourage renewable energy. For instance, property management or the buildings department can provide waiver in plot ratio. For instance, if you have installations to produce renewable energy, there can be some relaxation in the plot ratio. And then linking up the grid, well, we know that there are safety requirements to make, but that is also possible. I would be happy to hear comments from members to see how we can further encourage this. Supplement from the power companies, Mr. Wen. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Wu, for your questions. The greatest incentive we have for users to save energy is that progressive scale. It has been in place for more than 20 years, and we have been improving that progressive structure. If you consume less electricity, then you will be at the lower level, and the unit cost or the unit price is much lower. For instance, for the first block, whether it be domestic or business users, in 2013, they do not face any tariff increase at all. So this is already a great incentive for users not to consume energy beyond that block. And we also offer energy-saving incentives or concessions. Now we offer a super saver discount of 5%. So this is really a big incentive. For the first block, 44% of the commercial users will not need to face any tariff increase if they can be frugal in the use of electricity. And for domestic users, 80% of them will not have to face any tariff increase so long as they're willing to conserve energy.
Of course, we agree that the progressive system is effective in helping save energy. It's just that I want you to consider whether, say, compared with the consumption of the previous quarter, will you come up with measures to encourage the households to further conserve energy? Mr. To, I think we all need to face the reality that we need to use nuclear energy. I hope the authority, the administration, the green groups, the community, and the business groups cannot evade this. I hope the administration can provide all the information and tell us about the different scenarios and proceed with the public consultation. Chairman, I'd like to point out that there are many factors affecting how tariff will be adjusted. Using nuclear energy doesn't mean the tariff will come down. In the supply agreement, if we could arbitrarily guarantee the profit for the power companies and the formula is not worked out properly, even if we use nuclear energy, the tariff could still be very expensive. The reality now is that the cheap natural gas from Yaqin will be exhausted. According to the new supply contract, the natural gas will be more expensive. If everything remains the same, it is inevitable the tariff will need to go up. But we're going to have an interim review coming up, and there are new technologies available for us to conserve energy. So the next few years are going to be crucial. I hope the whole community of Hong Kong, before we see any nuclear disaster, we need to think very carefully. I hope the administration will really play your part and tell us about all the possible scenarios and also consult the public. Some of the people in Hong Kong are prepared to pay more for the use of renewable energies, and the government also may have a duty to subsidize the tariff for the rank and file. But all these options should need to be put forward to the community for discussion. I don't want us to oversimplify the issue and say that we want to cut down tariff, we need to use nuclear energy. I don't think that is practical. Under Secretary? Ms. Ho, I fully agree with what Ms. Ho said. She pointed out that this is a route that we have to take together. In the second half of 2013, we are planning to conduct an extensive public consultation. And we will lay down all the possible options and the elements behind those options that we need to consider. I think this is exactly what we will do. We will not try to avoid the issue. We understand also that when we put forward all these facts and information, I hope LegCo, the public, and the green groups will have an objective discussion. But there are pros and cons as far as nuclear energy is concerned, and I believe it is our duty to explain that clearly to everyone. In the end, we have to make a decision, and that decision would affect we're going to have an interim review in 2016, and we'll need to discuss how we're going to renew the scheme of control. Many members have pointed out the deficiencies of the existing SOC, and perhaps we may need to review what is going to be the role of government going forward. These are the things that we need to discuss. I hope members will be willing to, spend time on this exercise. We need your help. When we consult the public, we have to discuss many things. One thing which is already very complex would be the energy market. We believe that to some extent, when we discuss this subject, we cannot help but have to, better understand the background. And the extent of the tariff adjustment that the public is willing to accept. Well, there are some adjustments that cannot be avoided because it's subject to the market. So we're going to stick to the existing method that we use. That is, we have the stabilization fund and so on, all the mitigating measures that we have now in place. And Ms. Ho also asked whether the government could provide a subsidy because some people cannot pay expensive tariff. That's a different point of view. That is, what do we want the system to be like in future? We are all concerned about tariff increases. So I think this is an issue which will actually involve not only just our bureau. I think there are many issues involved. It involves science and politics. I hope the government can, give us the, genuine information so that the whole community can discuss and come up with a choice. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. Chairman, what we are discussing today is whether or not we should generate electricity through nuclear, transmission power. We're saying that if a nuclear plant is built somewhere, it might affect us. So I'm going to buy electricity from that plant. So I think whether or not we do it, they're going to build the nuclear power plant anyway. I don't care what other people do. The question is whether or not we in Hong Kong, whether we should use nuclear energy. That's the question we have to address. I understand that in the short term, the people of Hong Kong will be on your side. They say we can't help it if they have a nuclear power plant up there, if there's a disaster and people will die first, should there be an accident. What's wrong with our enjoying the cheaper tariff here? I think this is immoral. If a disaster actually happens, I don't want to bear this responsibility. So I'm not in favor of using nuclear energy, and I think that a country like China at the present stage of development should develop nuclear energy, especially in areas near the earthquake belt. I want to put this on record. I don't know what you've agreed with China. You're in favor of the developing nuclear energy, and that's why you're going to buy nuclear energy from them. If that's the case, I'm against that. Secondly, during the French Revolution, there was a saying that the right to survive or live is first. So at that time, it was talking about bread, but electricity nowadays is an essential product that we must use. So the power companies have a duty to guarantee that everyone in Hong Kong can use a minimum amount of electricity. Otherwise, the government should come in and provide a subsidy. Thirdly, the less we use, the more the reward we have, rather than giving discounts to your big customers or your customers using a lot of electricity, because that would be wrong. The Americans have invented all these, vehicles which are oil guzzlers, and because of that we have the energy crisis and so on. Because in the earlier days, petrol was cheap, they built big cars, consume a lot of petrol. I think this council, as the legislative body in Hong Kong, we have to really address this issue. I have to tell the two power companies that those who use more power should not be allowed to enjoy lower tariffs. Look at Japan. After the energy crisis there, they continuously adopted measures to save energy. You look at the Japanese cars. Cars in Japan are smaller in size than the ones they export because they want to conserve energy. Thirdly, I'm very unhappy to learn that in the footnote to confidential information, we understand that you have a remuneration policy. I think this is totally unreasonable. Your remuneration policy is part of what we are supposed to regulate. How would that affect labor relations? Disclosure will result in abnormal expectation on the part of employee. I think that is nonsense, because the market forces is more powerful than you. And secondly, disclosing confidential funding information may affect the funding costs of Hong Kong Electric, and as a result, the people of Hong Kong will have to pay higher electricity tariffs. Mr. Leung, do you have any question to ask? I understand literally what they say under footnote 1 and 2, but I understand why they say this. For your confidential funding information, for example, does the government know? Or the people who buy your shares, do they know? If people who buy your shares, if they don't know, how can you, provide a full account to those shareholders? So footnotes 1 and 2 apparently are correct, like what C.Y. Leung is saying when he talks. But if you ask further, that is, in the footnote to the confidential information, could you further provide some further information or explanation? I think it's all right if they've heard me. Mr. Leung, would you like them to respond? No, that won't be necessary. Please, try to tidy up the footnotes. Mr. Kwok Wing Hung.
About the fuel recovery account issue. According to the scheme of arrangement, clause 3.3, CLP Power may adjust tariffs through the fuel clause recovery account from time to time to reflect changes in the cost of fuels consumed by the companies for the generation of electricity. Looking at the recent statistics, I understand that the FCA has been in deficit for 6 years in running, and that the latest figure reflects a deficit of almost more than $1 billion. My question is how does the FCA affect the tariff going forward, and what do you expect to see the deficit? Is it going to continue to grow in the next few years? What is your projection, and how is that going to impact on the tariff adjustment issue? Thank you.
Mr. Lancaster.
Thank you for the question. The fuel recovery account is a mechanism that enables us to help. It's one of several mechanisms that enable us to stabilize electricity tariffs. We have to purchase 100% of our fuel on international markets, and international fuel markets are very volatile. So our fuel recovery account does help us manage that volatility so that we can keep stable electricity tariffs. The fuel recovery account can go into surplus or can go into deficit. And we do make adjustments at the end of the year with our annual tariff adjustment to take into account the projected cost of fuels as well as the balance in our fuel recovery account. So it's one of the factors that's taken into account when we consider a tariff adjustment at the end of each year. For 2013, based on our assessment of fuel costs and our expected generation using natural gas, we project that we will be carrying a deficit of around $1 billion by the end of next year. When we get to the end of 2013, we will take the actual deficit into account and our latest projection of fuel costs when we're projecting future
I understand
fuel
that,
price adjustments.
but my question is, how does that deficit, in light of it growing each year, is going to impact on the tariff issue going forward? And what's your assessment on that?
Just like to stress that it is a projection. We are basing that projection on our assessment of what the cost of fuel will be during 2013. In 2012, for example, the price of coal dropped quite considerably by 30%. So our projection was, for the end of 2012, was lower than what we were projecting last year because of that. So if fuel prices do reduce during the year, then our deficit would reduce and we would have less of a deficit to be carrying forward into 2014.
Right. Okay. 第一輪仲有冇委員想發問？
Any more in the first round? If not, I have two questions. Power generation requires fuel, but gas will be depleted, and that applies to coal and as well, and uranium might also be depleted, and even for solar energy, our pollutants might shield off the sunshine. So we have to consume energy while we still have these fuels. How do we make good use of them? Since the Fukushima incident, I had discussion with the National Energy Administration. It is very concerned about that incident and it is carrying out a full review of the construction and use of nuclear plants in the whole country. And Hong Kong SAR has also done a similar review. So for the Secretary, what is the review, the ongoing review on the use of nuclear energy? And what about public consultation? If the public accepts that nuclear energy should be used, if their fear has been dispelled, is there a way where the two power companies can increase the percentage of power from nuclear plants? And I think you have said a number of times that the the gas price from Yarchen is lower than the market level. And and then a few years afterwards, gas price may shoot up again. So how can you manage tariff level properly so that there will not be a sharp increase? So would there, in the interim review or in the new scheme of control, will there be measures to tackle this? Secretary. Thank you for your questions, Chairman. Two questions. First, the energy mix, including natural gas and nuclear, and the impact on cost using different mixes. Well, in this year we have two important projects. First is public consultation, a midterm review of the SA, and second, to determine our energy mix. Now, if really want to consider high reliance on nuclear energy, we'll consider the certainty where it will be available and also the timing as well as the cost. If we go for natural gas, will there be other sources of supply apart from Web 2? And environmental protection and price are important. We'll also consider the reliability and safety. We will not just focus on two sources. We should have a diversity of sources to ensure reliability. So all the information will be presented to the public in a fair manner to facilitate a public discussion. What about the supply of nuclear energy? I'd like to ask the two power companies, if you are to increase the percentage of energy from nuclear power, do you have the capacity to do that, and to what extent? If you cannot do that, can the Secretary discuss with Central People's Government to see whether we can have more nuclear energy supply? Mr. Wen. Thank you. So far, Hong Kong Electric has not introduced nuclear energy. In 2010, there was, in between September and December, there was a public consultation by the SAR. The proposal of the mix was 5 to 4 to 1. We were involved in that discussion. Unfortunately, in March 2013, there was the Fukushima incident. From our point of view, the whole study was halted. So we hope that the Energy Bureau can give us a clear policy as regards as regards energy mix, because this is important. We must have long-term planning for investment, and the source of energy also requires long-term planning. Even if you have a policy, it cannot be implemented in less than a few years' time. Is there the capacity for CLP to increase the supply of nuclear energy if necessary?
CLP has been using nuclear energy for approximately 1/3 of our electricity since 1994, and the power comes from the Daya Bay nuclear power station. For more nuclear energy to be imported, we would need to have some new infrastructure with new transmission lines to import the power, and also a new power station would need to be identified on the mainland so that we could contract for that additional power. Now that would take a lead time of around 8 to 10 years. That would be needed to build a new transmission line.
即係我覺得咧，就公眾嘅安全、市民嘅安全係。
Public safety is of paramount importance. However, we should not suspend a study just because of one single incident. So I hope that the Bureau can provide cleaner and cheaper electricity without sacrificing safety. According to Hong Kong Electric, the study has been shelved and no progress has been made. Perhaps the Bureau can consider reviving that study and also other possible options so that consumers can have more affordable electricity. 3 members would like to ask questions in the second round. I'd like to know whether there are others. Mr. Lee Chuk-yen, Dr. Fernando Zhang, he's walked out of the room, and Mr. Sin Chung Kai. Any more? If not, I draw a line after that. 5 minutes each, please. Mr. Lee Chuk-yen. Thank you, Chairman. We have the submission from Greenpeace asking us to follow up on the issues, but they're very technical, and I think I would give it to the Secretariat for forwarding to the administration and 2 power companies for a written reply. The Labour Party has great reservation for the use of nuclear power. Public safety is not as simple as that. Whenever there is a catastrophe, well, this is not an ordinary incident. Whenever there is an incident, it will be disastrous. So I don't believe we should rely on nuclear energy as our main source of energy. I'd like to go back to my earlier question, and that is, we're worried that future tariff hikes will be totally out of control, and I asked whether there were any projections for the coming 5 years. In my dialogue with CLP, I felt that we were playing riddles and they were not really answering our questions. The Secretary asked CLP to reply, but Secretary, I think you heard their replies. They were not really answering my questions. So I'd like to ask the Bureau whether they've made any predictions at all. And I think ultimately, the Secretary has shifted focus to the midterm review, saying that these issues will be considered in the midterm review, hoping to strike a balance. But, Secretary, the SCA terms can only be altered with the consent of both parties after the midterm review. So, how much bargaining power do you have to enable you to believe that you can alter some of the terms? And do you have any scope for the midterm review? Now, if you have points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in your scope, we'll see whether they are sufficient, and we can also provide input to your scope of review. You can say that everything we said this afternoon will be included in the midterm review, but we'd like to know what is the scope you have in mind regarding the midterm review. Secretary, thank you, Mr. Lee, for your questions. There are 3 things I'd like to say. First, regarding the previous proposed fuel mix of 5 to 4 to 1, I can say that the government's position is rather neutral. We have no intention to alter. We are open-minded as to whether that fuel mix should be altered. We would like to have a public debate in a very open debate. As regards whether we can predict the future tariff hikes, CLP has already indicated its position. Perhaps Hong Kong Electric would also like to reply. But it's very difficult even to predict the tariff increase for the next year is already hard, so it's hard to cover 5 years. Perhaps Hong Kong Electric would like to comment. And the scope of the midterm review, I think members understand that the review is not an easy task. The government must come to mutual agreement with the 2 power companies before making any modification to the SCAs. Well, I cannot give you a detailed analysis, but let me say that the scope will cover mainly 2 directions. First, what is a reasonable level of a tariff increase? Second, in terms of energy saving, environmental protection, how can we enhance the measures? Hong Kong Electric might want to supplement. Thank you. Going back to the midterm review, of course, tariff is a subject very close to our heart, and it is closely related to the permitted rate of return. If you do not do something about the 9.9% permitted rate of return, there is little room to maneuver unless you can fix that 9.9%. I'm sure the 2 power companies would want to maximize their rate of return. Unless we can change the 9.9% permitted rate of return, there is nothing we can do. So are you confident that you can change that? All right, are you confident? And how much bargaining power do you have in your negotiation of the 2 power companies? I think members all understand the SCAs, and the 2 power companies are also here. For the midterm review, I think we all want to do it in a rational and objective manner and objective basis. Let's say you mentioned 9.9%. What are the justifications and arguments to alter this? I think we can do it in an open debate. Mr. Sin Chong Tai. I think, Chairman, you have sent out the message that we should increase the reliance on nuclear power. I myself and the DP are against the further use of nuclear power. Of course, it has its merits. Emission is low. It's a relatively clean model of power generation, but the potential hazards are very high. They are something Hong Kong cannot afford. And we should not have greater nuclear energy production in the region. Of course, you're entitled to your own views, but Chairman, let me say that what you said in your 6 or so minutes doesn't represent the view of this panel. Let me clarify. I think you've heard me wrong.
因為福島嘅事件呢，就將有關嘅研究啦係擱置咗。
我明啊，我聽到啊，我
冇代表民主黨或者其他嘅議員呢，就話贊成去督促政府咧盡快用核電。
其實我哋想調翻轉講咧，就其實個福島事件已經發生咗之後，
我諗呢個唔係我哋辯論嘅時間，我所以澄清咧，我只係要求政府去。
呢個係你個人嘅要求啊，好清楚。
我代自己講嘅啫，我冇代你講嘅。不過你可以繼續啊，先至加入。
嗱，我覺得嗰個即係再唔需要再重新去啟動嗰個研究，因為如果你任何研究係即係似乎係引發落去就係要增加，即係重新增加。
I don't think we need to revive that study again. Otherwise, it would result in an increase in the use of nuclear energy. According to the contract, we have to acquire so much nuclear energy, and after the contract expires, I think Hong Kong should use less nuclear energy. We shouldn't increase the use of nuclear energy. I think we should be cutting down on the supply of nuclear energy. And the government has the duty to, of course, the Secretary said that it's difficult for you to make predictions for the next 5 years. Well, I asked the Secretary just now about because of the Web 2, and as a result, we need to build a transmission line to Hong Kong, and as a result, tariff has to go up, and you couldn't make an estimate, and you passed the buck on the CLP. I was asking how you are able to assess the impact of fuel price going up on tariff. But what you say is difficult. Actually, you should be able to make an estimate. You're just avoiding the issue. Regarding the 9.99%, there is room for that to be adjusted downwards. Both power companies have borrowing costs. I see, and it's not the same as it used to be, as before. Of course, whether the borrowing costs will go up again, but if you look at the last few years, I think the world is, flooded with abundant amount of capital. And for CLP, the funding cost is steadily falling all the time. So the 9.99% should be adjusted downwards to reflect the declining cost for funding. Could the Secretary also review that? Thank you, Mr. Sin, for the question. Your question is about the 9.99%. I think we have an open mind on this issue. Thank you. Today, members have expressed a very clear view. They want the administration to come up with a good regulatory regime, and they also want both power companies to have a reliable and secured as well as cheap supply of fuel. If we have drastic increase in tariff, it would add to the burden of the citizens, especially in the last few years, when we have been subject to high rates of inflation and the economy is not doing too well. Regarding the different modes of transmission, members have different views. We all think that the government should conduct a full-scale study. Of course, safety is, of course, of paramount importance. I hope the government will in terms of regulation and the midterm review, be able to, do what members expect you to do. So with that, I think we can end our discussion. I'd like to thank the Secretary, the Under-Secretary, and also the representatives from the two power companies for attending our meeting. Next, AOB. The date of our next meeting will be held on the 20th of January at 10:45. This meeting, for this meeting, we'll be listening to the three secretaries who will brief us about the policy initiatives in the 2013 policy address regarding economic development. So if there's no other business, I now declare that the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.